Lucy Whittington. I've been running my own marketing consultancy for, I think, 18 and a bit years now, which seems a very long time. But there we go, I'm still here, which is great. I'm also co-founder of Agenda Scope with Matt Mower, so that's my other claim to fame for being a part of this group as well. But I'm here today to just talk you through, like I said, the kind of fourth bridge of marketing, and these are the key points out of everything that I've ever done in marketing that I think you should be reviewing on an ongoing basis. So I call it MOPS, just to make it memorable. That's a good tip for a marketer. Have something that people can remember and it's not too complicated. So for me, that's message, offer, positioning, and sales process. Sales process is just my description for what you might call, customer journey or funnel or whatever you want to call it. I just call it that because it fitted nicely in with my MOPS. So it's not a new thing. It's the same thing that most people know about, but it's just how I talk about it. So I just wanted to intro kind of my take on MOPS and why I think it's important. And this is my little story that I tell. So this is what some people's businesses look like to the outside world without MOPS. So my scenario is, you've got 5 minutes, you've got to buy a gift for someone, you're running a bit late, you're on the way to their place, you haven't bought anything, and you run across this kind of junk shop. Now, you may or may not find a perfect gift in here for your friend or relative or whoever you're buying for. And the shop owner may or may not know everything that they've got there, but it's not going to be a very quick visit if you're trying to find out what's going on. And this is what can happen sometimes when you've kind of, how do I put it, organically worked on your marketing, where you've kind of done a bit of this and done a bit of that, and or when we do this and we can do a bit of that, and maybe your offers got a little bit spread out between different clients, different people have asked for different things, you've created lots of different stuff, and before you know it, the outside world looks at your shop window and it looks something like this. So life with MOPS looks a lot clearer. It would look something like this. So you're in a hurry, you've got that 5 minutes to buy a gift, you're pretty clear that you can go in and get something for whoever you need in here. And you also know that the shop owner, the florist, is probably likely to be able to tailor exactly what you want. They're an expert in what they do. It's obvious they've got a really niche subject area. They can go in, they can give you.
Okay. I'm on headphones.
Don't know if everyone's on.
Why is this not working?
It's not me talking.
Wi-Fi.
I don't know what that is. I feel like I'm doing housekeeping now. So,
very good. Coffee?
Sorry, Lucy, we're trying to mute.
That's all right. And no, I don't want a coffee because I don't drink it. Sorry. Try tea with me. That's all right. With oat milk. Now I sound really high maintenance. Okay. So this is what life looks like without MOPS. So this is what you're trying to aim for when you're really clear on your messaging and your offer and your positioning. So people walking past, literally, metaphorically, whatever, your business, know exactly what you do and that they can get an answer from you. Anyway, so 2 seconds on me. Matt, you'll please know, look, I've got the Agenda Scope logo in there. My background is, 20-something, probably nearly 30 years in marketing, quite a lot of software marketing, actually, all B2B marketing, just business consumer. I get marketing the same, it's just not my bag. I've done professional services, lots of software. I launched Xero in the UK. I was second hire there, back when that was very much a startup. And on that note, best route to market for that, channel partners, accountants. That's my little nod there. I live by the seaside. I've already been to the beach this morning. Just like to drop that in because I'm a little bit smug about it. And a few years ago, I wrote a book called Find Your Thing, which was also my take on how I believe every business has got a thing that they do differently to everyone else. So it's about finding the thing you do differently, even if it looks the same to everyone else. So I had lots of fun stuff in there and talked about fame names and things like that. So, but now it's just mopping. I mop up. So that's my kind of heritage. And also I'm going to say, because I've got loads to share with you and I want to rattle through it. If you miss a bit or you can't keep up, I've got a checklist, does show and tell here, that you can go and download, because I can't get through everything in this session. So that's quite a good cup of tea / coffee / drink of your choice. 10 minutes you might want to spend later having a quick check on what you do. So if you miss anything, don't panic, you can just go and do that. Right, so And I'll do questions at the end, by the way, or if you want to put questions in the chat as we go through, I'm quite happy to have a quick look at those as I go through. So message to me is getting across the following to your audience: what you do, the result you create. Often people just stop at what you do. You know, we do this, great, I don't care. I'm sure you've all heard that before, the what's in it for me piece. Your customers just want to know what you're going to do for them. So what do you do? What's the result? Who you do it for? You know, it's really important you communicate who you're doing this for, get that in there. And with feeling, so I say that because often you want to describe how you make people feel after they've worked with you. Are they going to be calmer? Are they going to be excited? Are they going to be focused? Are they going to be confident? Doesn't apply to every business, but sometimes people leave that bit out, and it can be really helpful if you're showing up solving a problem and you can tell people how they're going to feel, and usually hopefully the opposite of how they feel at the moment if they're not happy about that. It really helps in your messaging as well. And then you might want to explain why you do it, or why you do it your way. So I know we have the whole start with why thing, but sometimes people want to know why you've tackled this problem, or why you're doing it differently, or, you know, especially if you're in a crowded market, you know, why have you shown up to be another version of this? And also how you help. So what physically it is. I'm laughing about this. Some people, and I mentor on a startup accelerator, and I have sat through pitches where I get to the end and I'm like, I don't actually know what it is you're selling. Like, I don't know if it's a service or a bit of software or a product, because sometimes we get so caught up in talking about the result or the outcome that we don't always remember to tell people exactly what it is that we're selling. So it might be a process or a product or anything like that. So now I have just a couple of examples here of clients I've worked with. I think names are really important. If you've picked a name that doesn't tell me exactly what you do straight away, then make sure you've got a strapline that does. I'm not going to get into the trademarking the strapline, but if you've got a company name that's just, you know, a made up word, that's when I think straplines are really important. The message piece has to go in there, because if I don't understand what you're doing straight away. So just a couple of examples here. Zero burden service. I had no idea what they did. Turns out they work with big organizations like train companies and airports to deal with their lost property. So I thought it'd be quite useful to have lost property in the name of the business. So that's now been renamed to Complete Lost Property Service. It makes a lot more sense. Wake Up with Zest was a wellness consultancy I worked with. They were specializing in sleep, and they wanted to shift more to working across all aspects of people's wellness. So that's now Zest Lifestyle. Kept the zest because it had goodwill in it, but changed the word to lifestyle. And then another client runs a podcast agency, Podpreneur. They'd got bored with their name. I'm sure Alex won't mind me sharing that. And they felt they needed to grow it. They were like, oh, I'm not sure if it's working. Now, they had huge traction in their market, you know, loads of great goodwill clients. But this happens to all of us, you know, we get bored of our own thing because we hear it every day, right? So he wanted to change the name, and he'd come up with Sonicate. And I think my exact words to him were, that sounds like an electric toothbrush. Anyway, so it's still called Podpreneur because that's still working really well. And it does what it says, you know, if it does what it says, go with it. It's important that it lands with your market more than how you feel about it sometimes. That's obviously more important. So, so in your message, for me, it's like, are you clear? Are you concise? And are you shouting about what you're brilliant at, the results? So I'm not going to be the first marketer to tell you to stop weeing all over your copy. It's not all about you. It's about what you're doing for everyone else. So, and I just like saying that anyway, because it's funny. It's a bit like, you know, when you say, can I have a pee, please, Bob, in Blockbusters, but some of you aren't old enough to know what I'm talking about. But if you are, then you'll get that joke. So this is just a couple of examples. You don't have to write it like this. This can be a bit clunky depending what you do, but it's a good way to kind of work through it in your notes, just like trying to write out, and all this is on the checklist, by the way, just trying to write a few sentences out of like, here's what we do, or we create this, or we help this, or we transform this, or do this. It can kind of get your creative juices flowing of what you want to say. And also think about what you say in a sales conversation as well. Like when you're actually, if you're someone who sells through sales conversations, you know, pay attention to the words that people are responding to, you know, try out different words if you're not sure and see what people react to and things like that. That's always really, really helpful. again, any copywriter or marketer worth their salt always tells you, use the words your customers use, not the ones you like, because that's the ones that resonate with them. So always be listening. Okay, right, rattling on to offer now. And I work a lot in service-based businesses and software and apps, so this is slightly more tailored to that than products. But again, you still need to talk about what's the clear outcome, have a defined audience for it, not we sell to everyone. That makes most marketers want to cry, by the way. Defined audience, what's the clear outcome? And if you are selling a service, it's really helpful to have a clear process or philosophy of what you're selling. That sets you apart from everyone else. So, if you teach people to play piano, so do hundreds of other people. But if you have your process of, we take people through this way, or here's my 5 elements of, I talked about Zest Lifestyle before, they've got like 5 pillars of vitality. It just helps them to package up what otherwise is a service that could look on the surface like anyone else's. And also really important to set your price as part of your offer. I'm not a fan of new prices for new customers. So I think it's really helpful if you're going out to market that you have got clear pricing. And try and get known for one thing. That doesn't mean you can't sell other things, but we talked about PR earlier. We talked about generating leads and being known in a market, or referrals. Referrals are huge for a lot of businesses, which is why it's really important when you're going out to market with a message and an offer that you get known for one thing. You can still sell other things around the side. The florist we talked about obviously sells flowers, but I'm sure they sell chocolates in there and some greetings cards and some fluffy bears or something to go with it, but they're known for selling flowers. So it's much easier in your marketing if you're known for one thing. Doesn't mean you have to sell one thing, but just known for one thing. And that could be the outcome, by the way. So you could have loads of ways of getting to that outcome, but you're known for that outcome. And sometimes less is more with an offer. So quite a lot of businesses I work for, when we talk about what their customers need, not necessarily what they want, what they need, they often need all of the things that they do. So in a lot of cases, it's better to put together like an all-inclusive option. So, Higher Hand took the core of their offer. They were a marketplace that had a really good matching algorithm. And actually, we took the algorithm out and sold it as software as a service because that was more useful to the market, and sold it on its own. To be fair, they had no choice. It was in hospitality and COVID came along, but minor detail. Very good pivot there from them. Other companies I work with, Complete Loss Property Service, we've talked about, Zest Lifestyle, Pensar's an IT outsourcing provider. And when I talk to these businesses about, well, what's the best result you can get for clients? They're like, well, they need this, they need that, they need all the other. I'm like, well, why aren't you selling that to them in an all-inclusive package? That makes more sense, because otherwise you're letting them choose less than is going to get them the best result. So I'm a big fan of doing that. And I talk about that in terms of a result and the result sometimes. So the result is the full result you can get for people, which they should be buying, but also you appreciate that some clients aren't ready to buy everything from you. So that's a result. So the best, the result for me is like what you should always be talking about. That's the thing you go out to market with. That's what you're selling all the time. But it's also worth having some A results, which are a little slice or an introduction to what you do, because that sometimes meets the market where it's at, because it's not ready to buy the full result. But I think it's always really important to talk about the full result and your best work. Otherwise, you're underselling your outcome. Anyway, I could rant about that for ages. I'm going to move on. This is just another thing that I personally have a problem with. I think bespoke is a swear word for most service-based businesses, and product as well sometimes. Tailoring, yes, adding elements, but creating a brand new offer for every customer. My example I use here is, if you go into a nice restaurant, I think it's okay, she says, hopefully, apologies to any chefs, that if you see that the chicken comes with green beans and the fish comes with carrots, so you can ask them to swap that over, right? The kitchen's prepared those veggies. It's not a big deal for them. But I wouldn't walk into a restaurant and ask for a Thai curry if that's clearly not on the menu, because that's going to send the chef into a tailspin. And if they're a good chef, they should just tell me no and to go to the Thai restaurant down the road. But some people do that without realizing it. I've certainly spoken to some business before and they're like, oh God, yeah, when we have a customer come in, and even though we don't cook it, we will make them a Thai green curry because we don't want to lose their business. So for me, it's really important to be really clear what you sell. And obviously, if you're a Thai restaurant, please go ahead and sell a nice green curry. But if you're not selling that, don't do it. So positioning. For me, positioning is an interesting one because sometimes if you don't pay attention to it, your market creates your position for you. So if you just kind of go out into the market with a product and start talking about it, people will draw their own conclusions sometimes and put you next to competitors that you don't think you should be next to, or put you in an area of the market that you're like, no, that's not what we do. So for me, positioning is something that you should actively choose, actively decide on, and actively communicate. So you might choose the region that you want to operate in. You might want to position in terms of the result that you create and who you create it for. You might want to create your position because you've got a superpower in something and you need to tell people about it. Like, what are we really, really good at? This is where we sit in the market. And also for me, thinking about what role you have in your market is really important. So by that, I mean, are you a partner with the people you sell to? You know, do you work with them? Do you teach them? Are you a leader? Are you telling them to follow you? You know, buy my stuff and follow me. Are you a guide for them? Are you showing them which way to go? Are you a cheerleader? Is this something that's going to support people? Sometimes people forget that, but communicating that helps people to understand why they would want to buy from you or work with you, because they understand that's what they're looking for. They might want to be told what to do, or they might just want someone to sit with them and take them through it, whether you've got a product or a service or software. Thinking about the role that you play within their business or their life is really important. So yeah, and then honestly, I'm a big fan of just deciding where you want to be in your market and arranging your marketing around that. And do review this. I talk to people who have gone out with a position, and when they've reviewed it, they've realized that they've been moved in a certain direction. So if you need to, plot your position literally, like on your website, say, you know, here are our competitors and here's where we are, or we're in this part of the market, or we've created a new category and called it this, and we're over here, so don't line us up with these people. If you have to do comparison tables, if you have to, you know, do a diagram, it's quite useful sometimes to be very open about that, because, you know, we've all got the internet, we all go and Google who the competitors are or what else we're doing, especially if we've done a Google search based on a problem we're trying to solve rather than a product name. We are going to get the competitors come up. So I think it's better to just be upfront and go, this is what we're like, this is what we're not like, and here's where we sit in that. Especially if you're more expensive, you know, just address the elephant in the room. There's no problem being more expensive, just let me know why. I might still happily pay it. Okay, sales process. Sorry, I know I'm rattling through and I will do questions in a minute. So really simple terms, for me, sales process, it starts with hello. So this is when people have never heard about you before, the lead gen we were talking about earlier. It moves to welcome. So this is about people getting to know you. So it's not just enough to go, hi, this is us, and then like, do you want to buy my stuff? Nearly said a rude word then, but you know, so it moves to welcome. So depending on your business, you might need to educate people, you might need to just let them get to know you, you might need to, you know, this is all the touches marketers talk about. It's, you know, 7 or 11 touch points. They might need to see you, they might want to meet you, they might want to watch videos, they might want to read stuff. So it's all those pieces. And then afterwards, it's still thinking about the customer marketing. So it's not forgetting that. So it's building in a process to keep in touch with your customers, whether that's to sell them more stuff, whether that's to ask them to tell their friends about you, the referrals, or whatever it needs to be, or just to maintain your goodwill in the market. So these are the steps. Now the checklist goes into loads of detail. I've got loads of examples of each of these, but I'll just quickly do an overview. So awareness is what most people think of when they think of marketing. So this is promotion stuff, lead gen, you know, social media, doing PR, you know, where am I going to hear about you from? Speaking at events, being on podcasts, etc. So that stuff, I've got a checklist of things you could be thinking about. Interest is the next stage from that. So they've heard about you. Now, how can they find out more about you? And some of these interest pieces might be freely available, and some of them might be opt-in. So by opt-in in marketing terms, it's usually give me your name and email. It might be more information, but it's more than just follow me on social media. It's like, can I now communicate with you? So you might have some things where people can, get a brochure from you, they can download some more information, maybe get a price list, maybe watch some videos, definitely follow you on social media, and it's keeping them ideally in some kind of campaign that you can then nurture them. We're doing marketing speak, but find out more about what you do. So this is where people might talk about lead magnets, or having quizzes or scorecards, or a video series, or a little course you can give people to teach them stuff, but just so that they can carry on engaging with you. And as part of that, I would try and give them some evidence. So literally, like, are you any good at what you do? Basic level could be, Trustpilot reviews, Google reviews. It could be testimonials. Case studies, I think, are an absolute winner. I think I've been talking about case studies my entire marketing life, but they're so amazing. A proper full case study from, where people were before, what else they were looking at, how they made the decision, what went well, what didn't go well, where they are now, and, the future plans that they've got. Case studies are hugely powerful, I think, in most businesses. I can't think of one where they're not. Experience is also really helpful. So can people experience you before they buy from you? Is it possible to have a free trial, or at least a kind of behind the scenes tour, or even an infographic of talking through, like, this is what will happen when you buy from us. That works really well. It can be free, it can even be paid for. Sometimes the experience is like they can buy something small from you before they spend loads of money, but it's just to experience what it's like to be a customer of yours. And then the sale part, I still think marketers like to think we're in charge of everything. I think it's really important not to forget that you're still marketing during the sales process. So if the sales process is complicated or tricky, or it needs explaining, even an infographic of, like, here's what happens when you buy from us, if it's a complicated process, prices being clear, help being available. I always recommend having FAQs for sales separate to FAQs for your product or service. So basic things like, can I get a refund? Is there a guarantee? How does this work? How do you take my payment? What's happening with this? Like, sometimes the sticking point in a lot of businesses, even if you're not e-commerce, e-commerce is very well known that people, abandon cart, but people can metaphorically abandon cart during your sales process, even if you're selling something different. So having lots of reassurance and explanations of how the sales process works and setting expectations can actually make a huge difference to your conversion. So I think that's still a marketing job, because I would. And then the last bit of a sales process is loyalty. So like I said, this is customer marketing. This could be as simple as just emailing your customers on a regular basis with offers or news or new case studies or ideas, or having conversations with them if you haven't got hundreds of customers. Anything like that really makes a difference. But just, it could be fully blown into a loyalty program, people collecting points, all that kind of stuff, customers hearing about new offers before everyone else, that kind of thing. But depending what your business looks like, but that's quite often the bit of marketing that gets forgotten, or is done in a way where you're not making the most of it. So it's like, yeah, we'll just bang them on an email and send a newsletter out every month, and it's like, okay, but you could be missing a huge opportunity if you're not actively thinking about marketing to your customers. Right, that's a whistle-stop tour even for me. My plan, for the sales process, aim to have at least something at each stage. So often people will just have awareness stuff and then try and go straight to sale, and they'll miss out that. Some businesses need loads of stuff at the interest stage, because it takes a long time for people to make that decision. And like I say, if you're having abandoned cart issues, the sales process might need to look at. So that's my plan for that. So there you go. I think customers can be your best marketers and salespeople if you look after them. We talked about that earlier. I've worked in marketing a really long time, 100 years ago, not that long ago, but a very long time ago. I actually did my MBA on which marketing, what was it? It was something like which type of marketing worked best for software companies, as it was at the time. I was working for one, and I did a big study I was working in business software at the time, so I had people like, you know, SAP and Sage and Microsoft down to really small businesses, and I did lots of really dull research, and referral marketing came out top, even then, with huge companies with huge budgets. I'm not saying it works for every business, but it certainly does work in a lot of cases. And even if it's not referrals, it's, you know, having a lot of followers on social media or people sharing content that get other people engaged can make a real difference, or even just those conversations around the barbecue. Right. Oh, I've been unshared. I don't know what happened there, but yes, I guess I'm done then. Is that my klaxon for being done?
Lucy, that was awesome. We've had some requests in the chat about sharing your slides. Would you?
Yeah, that's fine.
If you email them to us, we'll
Yep.
put them in our Slack and email them to our members, because I think what you've shared there this morning is some wonderful tips. Any questions from anyone? Any questions from members of Startup to Stand Up on anything Lucy's covered this morning?
Everyone's gone shy now.
Everyone's gone shy. Yeah. Oh, Phil McSweeney. Phil, then Tom.
Great. Got speaking
Thank
out
you.
now.
Thank you, Lucy. That was really helpful, and I will look forward to distilling lots of ideas from your slides when I get hold of them. I was just going to ask you about strap lines or taglines or slogans. I mean, in your experience, what do you think makes for the greatest strap lines or taglines?
My very short answer to that would be simple English language, with the caveat of, like, would a 10-year-old understand it? Or a 12-year-old, like, no jargon, really clear outcome. And just, again, it's understanding, like, don't make it too general. I think some people go for something that, like, ooh, that's a bit catchy, and I'm just like, oh God, just tell me what it actually does. And if it's for me, you know, if it's for businesses, or if it's for, you know, organizations of a certain size, like, get that in there. If you can get in some specifics of who this is for, I think it's very easy to have a tagline that's just a bit like, meh, anyone could use it. A little bit of a test for me is, like, could another business pick that up and use it? Like, and even worse, could another business in a completely different industry or market use it? Then it hasn't really said anything.
Yeah.
You know, unless you're in the realm of your, you know, Nikes and, you know, just do it and things like that, then I think if you're using a tagline to explain what you do, it's a little bit of real estate. Like, you know, back in the olden days when everyone read magazines and PR was, like, super important, like, the way magazines would be written would be, you know, on the front cover would be like a little one-line headline, and that would tell you whether you then wanted to, you know, open the magazine to read the contents, to maybe get the 1 or 2 lines about what that article is about, and then you might then go through and find a big article. That's kind of my take on, if the name of your business doesn't tell me what you do, you need to quickly tell me what it does in the tagline, and then the kind of, you know, next paragraph that you would then write would explain it. So I think they're really helpful. I think they can be easily made into kind of just, like, almost like throwaway phrases would be what I would say to describe it. I think, you know, use it wisely. But yeah, it's just and just the amount of time I spend telling people to strip out industry jargon is immense. That's my, if I had £1 for that moment, because you don't know who you're talking to.
No.
And you don't know what they know yet. You know, obviously, if you're selling something very technical to a very technical market, then use your technical jargon. But in most cases, it's not helpful. Yeah.
Do you have any favorites?
Oh no, this is like asking a comedian what their favorite joke is on the spot. No, I could probably go away and find some.
Yeah.
But it's more just when I read it, I'm like, do I now know what you do?
Yeah.
That's kind of the test. Or put it in front of 5-10 people and go, do you now know what we do?
Yeah.
You know,
What does it add? Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
if it doesn't add anything, then you don't need it. I think they're really important if you've got a business name that is, you know, something that doesn't mean anything. Like, you know, like, I mean, zero would be an example in that, like, you don't know what that does, but you would have a strap line that would say, you know, you'd assume would mention the word accounting in it, or, you know, business or something like small business accounting or something. But sometimes it can just be really straightforward. It doesn't have to be, you know, this isn't the time to go out and win some kind of prize for like the world's most creative writing. It's about grabbing people's attention. I mean, if there's anything that's happened over the course of my lifetime being a marketeer, is that people's attention spans have probably got a lot smaller, and they were quite small to start with. So
Yeah,
that would be my advice.
thanks.
Phil. Tom.
Hi, Lucy. Thanks ever so much for that. Firstly, just thank you for mentioning two things. So one of the things I'm a super specialist in is naming companies. So thank you talking about the importance of names, because that's really important.
Good.
And thank you for talking about feeling, because that's my other thing. So
I'm glad at one point it's slightly
brilliant.
nerve-wracking to have peers on your
But what I suck at, and I want your help with, is data. So what's your top tip for using data more effectively?
In what context? Measuring effectiveness of campaigns, or
Well, just what should we be doing? First of all, let's talk about things. What should we be? What's the most important data to collect?
Okay, so for me, if you're going real basics, it's how many people on your list. So by that I mean your email list. I mean, some people's market, it's important how many people are on their social media followers, that kind of thing. So you need a size of you need to know like how many people are paying attention to you. So that might, you know, okay, kind of, you might have your social media followers, they can be vanity metrics depending, but then really you want who's on your email list, because that's still a kind of stalwart of these people have opted in to hear from you. You may then want to be measuring, you know, open rates of that if it's relevant, but really for me it's click-throughs. I mean, ultimately every business is about making sales. I'm assuming that's why we're all in business. And you know, it's tracking from the awareness thing, so that would be who's paying attention to you, so that might be social media ones, to the interest one, which is have they opted into your email list in most cases, and then it's tracking it through to, okay, you know, maybe who's requested case studies, who's gone on to have a sales conversation, and then measuring the conversion to that. And then obviously it might be important for you to measure like the time that takes, if that's important, if you want to compress that. If you're selling off a website, obviously you can get into all like conversion stats for that, but it's really the basics of like who's heard about you, who's now taking an interest, i.e. email, and then who's then converting to a sales conversation, and then who actually then transfers to a customer. And then you might want to do some data off the back of like, you know, who's making referrals for you, because you might want to, you know, spend more time with the people that make lots of referrals for you. You might want to set up a channel effectively. But yeah, it's kind of the basics of through that sales process, like having some data at each stage really. And obviously, I mean, there's lots of other data you can collect to the business, but that would be the kind of marketing bit that I would want to know what was going on.
Yeah, Dunbar's law and all that.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Tom. Damien and Neil.
Hi, Lucy. Thank you for that.
Hi, Damien.
Really enjoyed that. I've got two questions actually. The first one's really important. Which beach are you near?
Nearest. Oh, if I walk from my house, kind of the juncture of Camphor Cliffs and Sandbanks.
Okay, lovely. I'm in Brighton, so just a little bit along the way.
Oh, that, yeah. I was born in Shoreham by Sea, but as I said to my parents who are from Brighton, that's not a real beach. Anyway, 7 miles of sand, just saying. Anyway.
Yeah. Second question is, I mean, fantastic load of information. I kind of like, as I was listening to it, I was like, yeah. And then eventually like, oh, so much. Like a lot of, you know, I think for me, one of the big challenges in marketing is where to start. What is you know, there's so much to do, and that's never going to change, right? I mean, it's just kind of like, so, you know, it's about, okay, what should be done when? Like, you know, if it was, you know, recognizing you just can't do everything at once, especially a founder-led organization, you know, it's about going, right, well, this month it's going to be this month it's going to be that. And I just wonder, do you have kind of like a recommendation on that? It may be something, you know, beyond the remit of this call, but you know, in terms of just going, right, well, in order to get from here to here, this is kind of a sensible journey for a SaaS company, for example.
Yeah. Okay. So for any company, for me, if you haven't done this for a while, the first place to start is always your offer. I think unless you're super clear on your offer, and that is on the slide that I didn't get to, which you'll see later. So it's off. I would always review your offer, because until you're really clear on what it is you're offering, like, you can't really do the rest of the work. You can talk around it, but if you're really clear, like this is what we're offering and this is who we're offering it to and this is the outcome that we're going to create, then you can revisit your message, right? Does that actually say what we're doing with the offer? Then you can choose your position. I mean, all of that is something technically you can just sit down and do in one go. Choose your position of where you want to be, because that will inform, you know, who you want to talk to. So that stuff you can kind of decide. And then in terms of marketing, one thing I'll always say is know what result you need to get next. I talk to a lot of people, especially, you know, I'm working with, obviously, co-founder of a SaaS company, but also I'm working with a couple of other SaaS companies at the moment. And often when you get to marketing, especially if marketing not your thing, you go into what I call big thinking. So you start going, right, we need a massive campaign for this. We need to be doing this social media and these Facebook ads, and we're going to build this great funnel. And actually, I'm like, well, do you not need like 5 pilot customers first, or 10 people in a user group to, you know, test this out? And actually, it's what's your next step? Like, do you just need 2, 5, 10, whatever people using your software? And then who are those people? Like, can you find them through your network? Do you know them already? Could you go to 1 or 2 key channel partners or people who've already got your market? Biggest bit of advice for most startups, irrespective, is like, who's already talking to your people? I mean, we touched on this earlier, like your network, but even if you don't know them yet, the quickest way to any market, if you have no traction in it, is go and find someone else who does something complementary or not related, who has your people, and go and talk to them and see if you can be introduced to some people that are their customers or their clients or well known in their market. And I think that's what I spend quite a lot of time doing with businesses in earlier stages, is reeling them in, putting blinkers on them, making them sit and, you know, just sit in the corner and do the first piece of marketing, because you don't need all of the big marketing as quickly as you think you do. You need version 1 of everything. So you might not need a big fancy website. You might need a 1-page website. You might not even need a website. You might need a really nicely designed 2-page PDF that you're going to send to the right people. You know, you might not need to be posting on social media every 5 minutes. You just might need to put something once a week out that's useful and targeted. So it's about breaking down, like, what's my next target for marketing? I mean, obviously, if your next target is to get 1,000 users, you'd have a completely different marketing plan for that, and you might want to be doing, you know, social media ads and building out funnels and all that kind of stuff. So that's where I would start with, like, be clear on your offer, know what position you want to be in, create the message that goes with that, and then work out what your numbers are in terms of what outcomes do you want. If you only want 5 pilot clients, you might only have to talk to 15 people, or 50, depending how good you are at sales conversations. But, you know, that sort of thing, it often people go into, like, I need to do marketing now, and then they just go like into like mega mode, and they don't need to, which is good news if you're panicking that you think you need to go into mega mode. So that's my answer to that.
Thanks, Damien. I think we cover that point time and time again. The importance of a referral packet or program. So many founders I speak to day in, day out, and they look at things that they feel are more sophisticated, and what Lucy just raised there about who's already speaking to your target audience. Can we get you know, an intro? And sometimes it's the simplest thing. It really is. Yeah.
I mean, I've, you know, if I can help it, I'm quite lazy as a marketer. I'm like, well, what's the quickest, easiest way to do this? Rather than, you know, let's set up loads of really sophisticated campaigns, stuff like that. I'm like that. Not really.
All right. So Neil, then Giancarlo, and then Stuart and Becky, please.
Cool. Oh, are you on mute, Neil?
You're on mute, mate.
I've always wanted to say that.
How embarrassing! How embarrassing! Sorry. Thank you very much for talk. It was brilliant. My challenge is something I've wrestled with ever since I've gone independent, is actually trying to focus on what I sell, which is, you know, because the way I work is like service design, product design. You know, people say, do you do websites? Do you do digital? Do you do branding? And the answer, unfortunately, to all of those is yes.
Neil, you've been making Thai chicken curry for everyone.
Well, you see, this is
And
the
pizza and
but see this is the the challenge I've always faced coming from a kind of design capability, but also from a consulting point of view, is that as you've done, focusing on, okay, well, what is the problem? Who are the customers? How do you actually go to that? And then then I can actually help with the implementation. For me, it's always, where do I start the conversation? Pretty much all of the work I've got in the last 4 or 5 years has been through referrals, because the only way I can really target my marketing is when my customers start talking. And then it's just like that. It's like, okay, well, this is the problem you need to solve. And this is, how I can help you get to that particular point. So marketing, I've almost like I don't do broadcast marketing because I have no idea where to start that conversation. So I don't know whether there is a direct answer for that or if I just need counselling.
Well, first of all, I could probably help you with that. But second of all, I would just say, go back to my thing I touched on of the and the A result. So I would flip it around and so I have a thing about niching. So some people panic and think they need to have a niche market and think about it in terms of like real straight up demographic. So it's like, right, I only work with these businesses or this age of, we sell to this age of people and things like that, which can be absolutely fine and perfect if your business fits nicely into what I would call like a demographic niche. I would also think about what I call a trigger niche. So for me, a trigger niche is where there's something that happens, an event, people are like, right, this is now a problem for me, I need to fix it, or this is happening, or who was it, the oh shit moment that we were talking about earlier, like this has now happened, and you market to that trigger. Like, have you decided today that you need to build your own app? Have you decided today that like today's the day you need a fancy website, or you need to, right, you've done version 1 and now you want version 2 or whatever it is. And it's just really important to think of it so you can market to that trigger, so you can market to the thoughts that people are waking up saying to themselves, rather than a particular type of business. And then you just see who turns up, right? So like I kind of have a trigger niche in that when people get to that stage where they're like, I really need to get clear on my message, offer, positioning, sales process, I'm like, well, then I can help you. But the other thing you can do is talk about is to flip it on its head and go, right, if I'm given an ideal customer, the people I like to work with, like, here's all the things I want to do for them. And you talk about that as and maybe give it a name. It's a something process, or it's a whatever, and it's all those different stages. But that doesn't mean you can't sell just one of those pieces to them, but you talk about all of them. And that can really help as well in terms of a sales conversation, because then it's never really like, oh, well, I'll just sell you this first bit, and then I've got to like upsell you the next bit, and then I've got to like try and tell you need the bit after. Sometimes it's better to go, okay, in an ideal world, you need to sort all of this out, this, and this. But I appreciate that you might just want to start with this piece, but you've already had the conversation about this is what the full outcome looks like, but we can just get started with this, or we can work on this piece in isolation, and that will make a difference. It won't make the difference, but it'll make a difference. And that way you talk about the full piece without having to like show up and look like you do different things to different people.
Yeah, it's that conversation starter. I mean, it's a kind of like challenge I have, just like so like this week I'm working with an accountant software piece. I'm working with a guy at the end of the road that found me through cycling, who's got a cybersecurity business, and I'm working with a football social competitive piece that's going to be in Manchester, that's got a client list from retired pensioners to Premiership football players. And it's just like, but for each one of those, the process is exactly the same. I'm doing the same thing. About.
Yeah.
And it's just really difficult.
The process and the problem that you're solving, and whoever shows up. Like, it's not going to be the same type of businesses. Like you've already seen, I've worked with people that are doing like lost property service, but I'm also working on SaaS products. I've done fintech, I've done all sorts of stuff. Like, it doesn't matter to me because the process is the same.
Yeah.
And that's what I talk about. I market the process. So that's what I would talk about. The problem you solve, and talk about the whole process, even if people don't buy all of it. Thank you. Yeah, that's really helpful. Oh, who's next? Is it?
Thank you very much, Neil. I think we've got Giancarlo and then Stuart and Becky.
Hi, Lucy. First of all, thank you very much. I'm the one who asked for the slides. It was really absolutely fantastic talk and be an excellent reminder. I have a question. How much of what you said changes if actually the marketing, it is for a disruptive company? The question is because when you're disruptive, usually means that you want to basically get people off something that it is quite usually big and they're used to use it. So you have a double challenge. You first have to get people off what they're used to and then convince them that your alternative is better.
Yeah.
And so how much of what you said changes, or what is your suggestion actually to start thinking about that process?
So the first thing that came into my head when you're saying that, and I don't say this to many people, is influencers. Like, find some key people. So I talk to other people about having their pilot group, and that's more you know, when you're launching software, a pilot group is really useful for, you know, feedback on every level: the product, you know, the onboarding, the usability, the marketing, messaging, everything. I think you could do that, but in a more purposefully disruptive way, by going and seeking out some people who have got, you know, really thinking about who's got influence in this market already, and kind of going, right, who can I get on board? How can I encourage a few people to come and join this? You know, and appeal to their ego, appeal to the fact that, do you want to be a disruptor with me? You know, do you want to do something different? Find those early adopters, as we call them, you know, in market. Like I would purposefully seek out those people, because you're going to need them anyway. Like, you know, it's going to be the early adopters who will move. It's not going to be the people who are, you know, yeah, I'm fine where I am, thanks. But I would make a big deal of that. It's like, you know, do you want to come over and join my little secret, like, you know, disruptive group over here? And I would try and identify those people, approach them how you need to, and put your kind of pilot group together as a kind of little, you know, renegade band of disruptors, so that when they do get it and they do like it, they're already the people who have influence in the market. That would be my suggestion, to do that, because it's going to need to be led by people that these people are already listening to. It's quite hard to take people off a platform if they don't know you yet. So your other job is either you become so well known as this disruptive kind of force, or probably the slightly easier option is to find a little band of, you know, disruptors that can be your kind of influencers back out into the market, if that's possible. I don't know what it is you're selling, so I'm kind of speaking in general terms, but
No. Yeah. I mean, I'll probably contact you and I'll explain. But yeah, it makes perfect sense. Yeah. I mean, as Phil was saying, yeah, find the rebels. And yeah. Okay.
You know,
Actually, Giancarlo, I'd like you to tell Lucy what you're doing, because I think it could be of big interest.
All right. Yeah. So yeah, basically with Words.tel, we are offering an alternative to Google and search engines. So basically we offer everyone on our platform taglines or straplines, short memorable phrases, and they own these phrases uniquely, and that they become the only thing that then their customers, new or old, need to remember to just find them and only them. So it's the platform's website, mobile apps, on Alexa, and you know, we are privacy oriented, obviously, and so basically we don't collect data, we don't use cookies, we don't do any of that. So we are going completely the other way. And because you obviously own uniquely your short memorable phrase, then there is no any more problem of competitors ranking ads and that sort of stuff. So if you want, you can think about it about like the what rewards of everything, with the difference that it's not rewards, it's any words you want and you decide them.
That's what I was thinking. Is this like what 3 words, but for marketing? So that's
it is basically, it is my way. It is usually the what rewards of everything, but you decide the phrase, and it's not just rewards.
In your context, then you probably want to find some rebel marketing agencies or rebel social media agencies and people like that, because they'll be the people who are trying to look for another angle for their clients. And then if you get, you know, and then once you get, and obviously an agency is going to have more than one client, and so that's how you get sort of some critical mass. So I would there's lots of kind of, you know, like creative advertising, marketing kind of like conferences and things like that, that's probably worth that have the real kind of people on the edge of things, you know, the ones who are probably shouting about AI stuff and being really creative and a bit disruptive. I think you've picked a good market to find disruptors in, because creative people, you know, there's always going to be some agencies and creative people who have, you know, been in an agency that was disruptive and then broken away from that to be even more disruptive or by themselves, or whatever. So I think that's where you need to go and hang out and find those people.
Okay. Yeah, that's brilliant.
Too old to be disruptive, but I get it.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
That's cool.
Very, very good. Thanks, Giancarlo. Stuart and Becky.
Hi, Lucy. Thanks.
Hiya.
Hiya. It's just really on your beautiful slides. You had a point on there that the pricing should be clear, which is a very sage thing to say. And aside from the not liking a different price for new customers, which I totally get, we're a startup. We're in the app and software space. And especially for our our pilot groups, we need to scale our pricing for the business size.
Yeah.
How do you get that message across? It's been suggested that we take all the pricing down off our websites. It's been suggested that we sort of categorize it, which seems really complicated. But we can't put one price on there because the size of business is so different that it wouldn't, especially at this stage, it wouldn't work. So any advice?
I kind of need more information, but here's some just general things that might help. And if we don't land, I'm happy to have a separate conversation. But so I'm working with another SaaS startup at the moment. And so one thing I will say about pricing is it's a lot easier to put it down than it is to put it up. So if you're unsure of your pricing at any point, it's better to go to the market with a higher price. And for example, if you're launching something, go with a higher price that you think is the top end of what the market can tolerate, and then offer a discount on it, like, you know, and that could be on a sliding scale. It's like, right, the first people get it at 50% off, the next 40, 30, whatever. Or it's just, you know, it's going to be 50% off for this amount of time, and then that ends or whatever. But it's much harder to put a price up than it is to put it down. That's the first thing I'll say about anything.
Yeah.
I think if you are going to have different pricing bands, just have really good reasons for it. You know, if it's based and have something tangible that's like, it's either the size of the organization or the number of people using it or the amount of data or storage or something, you know, something that's obviously it's not an emotive thing, it's just a factual thing. It's like, you know, if you are this, it's this price. If you're that, it's this price. If it's that. And at the end of the day, it's your business, they're your prices. Like, you know, you're always going to be too expensive for some people and too cheap for other people. Yes, you need to find the right spot in that market to hit with people. But for me, that's about people understanding that's a marketing job as well. People understanding the value of what you're bringing them. Are you giving them enough evidence that this is, you know, earlier we were talking about people using expensive lead generation, but then they got a 6-time return on it. So it's now no longer expensive. So it's about demonstrating value, ROI, what people can get for it, whether that's time saved, money saved, bigger income, what the result is you're generating. If you can market and message around why the pricing is what the pricing is, and if you don't know right now, the best option is to pick what you think is going to be the top end that people can tolerate, reduce it, go out with that, and telling people it's a pilot and it's a reduced thing, and then, you know, gathering your evidence of like, well, this is to save people, you know, £5 million, therefore we're going to charge £1 million for it. Then that becomes your evidence. It is hard, I understand. I know it's hard in the beginning. Price, and it does depend who you're selling it to. You know, we've had this conversation in Agenda Scope, obviously, because we've got a product that can be used by anyone. But the market we've chosen to take it to, we've priced it, you know, it's not a £50 a month product. It's, you know, it's significantly more than that. But that's because it's absolutely worth that in terms of the value that it delivers and the story that we're telling around that and the time and the outcomes that will be generated, because the people using it are, you know, boards and you know, people making huge multi-million-pound decisions often, and therefore us charging a decent amount of money to help them facilitate making those decisions sits absolutely fine within their in their perception of it. Whereas if we were selling to SME startups who are like, oh, I'm already paying £30 for Slack, I'm not sure I've got another £50 for that or whatever, it's a different conversation. So you know, like I'm very sadly, I'm got an economics degree and things like that, and I used to get very excited about all the different demand and supply things and price points and all that kind of stuff you can do. And there's a price point for everyone. You know, we all know that you can go and buy a £5,000 handbag and a £5 handbag, and all of those handbags sell every day. So it's kind of, I know you're not selling handbags, but it's just about the story and the position, and again, choosing your position and telling the story around that. But one thing I will say about pricing is and this is a bit of a slightly more woo-woo edge to what I do, but like, if you don't feel that the pricing's right, that will come across in your marketing and your sales conversations. That's another thing that to me is really important.
Would you say that a price is better than no price? Because I personally, I hate those websites where you get to the end and it says, "Oh, contact us."
No, it's just like you know, depending what you're selling and who your market is. If your market's going to make a decision based on price, you've got a different set of marketing to do around that. If your market's going to make a decision based on outcomes and the price is the price, that's what you want to do. For me, if marketing hasn't done a good enough job of telling people why they want this, and it all comes down to pricing, then you need to do more work on your marketing.
Okay, thank you.
That would be my take on that. I've just set myself up for a massive fall there, haven't I? But that's why, you know, that's why you want the evidence. That's why you want the case studies and the examples and the people testing it out. Ideally, to me, if marketing's done a really good job, a sales conversation is almost just like a little, oh, I'm just checking you haven't got two heads. Yeah, fine. Yeah, I'm just checking all the stuff you've said you do is actually true. Yeah. Do I like you? Yeah, you're all right. Great. Right, then I'm buying. I mean, it shouldn't be a big convincing operation if you've built up lots of good marketing, in my opinion. And I appreciate when you start out, you don't have all of that and it takes a while to build up. So, yeah.
I have got a handbag though.
Good. That's good. Yeah. I won't ask how much it was.
There we go.
Thanks, Becky, for your question. How was that this morning? Useful?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought, Lucy, it's been fantastic.
Thank
you. Really, really good. We love you being part of our community. It's great having you on. You're going to get some great comments and lots of appreciation, signs of our gratitude today on LinkedIn mainly, and some big ups. No, that was fantastic, Lucy. It's really, really good. Thank you very much.
I'll just say as well, like, if you have downloaded my checklist or you're listening to this back and you've done a checklist, there's obviously a little nurture sequence that comes after that, and one of the options is to book a call with me if you do want one. So yeah, that's cool. Oh, and someone else has got the same place of birth on their passport as I have, which is really exciting. God, it's there. Cool. I like it because you get Shore and Bicey and it's all hyphenated. It couldn't be more English. It's just like very
more posh.
Yeah. Bicey.
Thank you very much, Lucy. Thanks, everyone. Start to stand up. And